Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video. We're doing the second Winter 2019-2020 season model roundup for today's first video. So we're going to get 13 long-range models together. We're going to see what they're all showing for the winter of 2019-2020. And we'll build up a consensus in terms of the model output in the direction that the models are going in this month during October. Of course, this is all building up to the GWV's winter forecast. So, on the 1st of December, we are going to release the GWV.com winter 2019-2020 winter forecast. So, at that point, we will get all of the long-range models together, along with all of the winter updates, the GWV's methodology, if you like. We'll bring it all together, and we will release the forecast on the 1st of December. So, it's quite an important update in terms of itself, but also in terms of the overall winter forecast as well. There will be one more season model roundup at the end of November, though, of course. So, I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just say that the video is coming up later on today. It'll be weekend forecast, always on Saturday. You're going to have your weekend look ahead. And also, after that, we'll have a week to 10-day video update extending sort of 14 days and beyond, including all of the regular features. But that video will be on the homepage at GWV.com. Of course, it's going to be quite a long video, so get yourself a cup of tea, and a healthy snack, perhaps, and sit back and enjoy it. This video will be placed on the winter updates page with a written summary going over everything that we discussed in the video, and I'll get that up for you this evening. Right then, so I'm going to start off with the Jma. Now, this first model only covers the period from November to January, so it doesn't quite cover the full winter period yet. Next month, we will have December, January, February coming on stream, but at this point, it only covers November through to January. Now, we can get a lot of information from it, Jma. I haven't got time to go through all of the information that we can get from it. But on Thursday, we actually released a Jma Season Bar update where we looked at this in depth for the next 3 months. So if you want to know the month-by-month breakdowns, then have a look at that video. We release it on Thursday. This is a 500 millibar height anomaly from the Jma for January, for November, December, January, and this one has below average heights. UK just there, by the way, top right hand corner of the chart as you look at it, where we are on many of these long range model charts, by the way. So for the next 3 months, on average, we've got low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure to the west southwest, and bringing in quite a strong zonal westerly flow, also some ridging across central and eastern parts of Europe as well. It looks like an Atlantic-driven and mild signal. The model is forecasting above average temperatures from November through to January and above average rainfall in what looks like a very Atlantic-driven westerly and zonal weather pattern. If we come down here to the black arrows, which are indicating the mean wind direction, you can see they are very, very westerly indeed. Westerly is being forecast to come all the way across the Atlantic and going well into the west of Russia as well. So this looks like a very zonal, sort of early to mid-winter anyway, being forecast by the Jma. The next model we're going to look at, and everything else that you see is going to be for the full winter period. So there's not going to be any more November, December, January, but everything else is going to be December, January, February, winter 2019-2020. And the next model we look at is going to be the Brazilian models. This is 500 millibar height anomaly for the winter of 2019-2020. This one always does things a little bit different. So on this chart, blue is extrapolated to above average heights, high pressure, and yellow, orange, and red extrapolate to below average heights, which is low pressure. On any other height anomaly, that's the other way round. This is the only one I know of that does it this way round. I think they do it just purely try and catch us out. So for the winter, the Brazilian model looks quite interesting actually. It has a trough of below average heights there, sitting sort of to the east and southeast of the UK. But it looks like it's a trough of low pressure within the 500 millibar flow. At the same time, it's got an area of above average heights, high pressure from the Atlantic and extending up towards Greenland. So that's the mid-Atlantic ridge. And potentially this does allow us to pull in some quite cold air, I would have thought, at times from the north, based on the alignment of the trough and the ridge. Now, the model is forecasting slightly above average temperature, but then again, these seasonal models very rarely go for below average temperature, so I wouldn't take that too seriously. It's basically average to a little bit above. And precipitation-wise, again, it looks quite interesting from a rainfall precipitation perspective, because it is wetter here through parts of France into central parts of Europe, although it is a bit drier to the west of Portugal as well. It's a little bit in between, but I do think there could be a little bit of cold potential going on there from the 500 millibar height only from the Brazilian model. So that's quite an interesting anomaly for the winter of 2019-2020. We go north from Brazil to Canada. This is CanSips from tropicaltidbits.com. Mean sea level pressure anomalies this time. Now, you remember last month, CanSips was going for a rather blocked and cold type winter. It had northern blocking and was going for quite a lot of, potentially anyway, east or northerly winds. But this month it has changed though. CanSips has flipped a little bit with low pressure now up to the north and high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. So it's gone westerly. It's indicating quite an Atlantic-driven zonal type winter, which of course would be rather wet and windy. Temperature anomalies from CanSips are being forecast to be milder than average for the winter of 2019-2020 now. And it's close to average for rainfall, but possibly hints at being a little bit on the above average side, which you would expect in a westerly zonal type winter. So a definite change there from CanSips from last month's blocking signals to this month's Atlantic driven type pattern. So this is probability in terms of temperature and precipitation. This is coming from International Research Institute for Climate and Society, part of Earth Institute and Columbia University. So this is a probability forecast for the winter of 2019-2020. You can see that some parts of Central Europe actually have a 40% probability of a below average winter, below average temperatures through this winter. So it could actually be a rather coldish winter through Central Europe, which is quite unusual for these maps. They normally show above average temperatures. Across the west of Europe, so for the UK, for Ireland, for France, we sort of have normal probability. So we neither have below average favoured or above average temperatures favoured. Scandinavia, the far north of Europe, does look a little bit warmer, as does Greenland. The way that shapes up, to me, does indicate that the model could be hinting, probability model could be hinting at some high pressure within the northern latitudes. The temperature probability for the winter of 2019-2020, the precipitation probability, I should say, for the winter of 2019-2020 looks like that. A rather dry winter is being forecast here for the UK. The probability is quite substantially drier than average, so sort of 40 to 50% probability of below average precipitation. The same is true for Scandinavia and also, interestingly, for Iceland. Whilst some of these eastern parts of Europe have above average probability for precipitation. To me, that looks like it could be hinting at a rather colder and more blocked type winter. That's another one that's fairly interesting. Next, we come on to Patel Payne's Analogues. So Patel is working within the umbrella of NOAA, but instead of just a straightforward model, this is having a look at sea surface temperature anomalies across the world in any given month. In this case, sea surface temperature anomalies during September, and then looking at parches, has similar sea surface temperature anomalies, and then making an Analogues-based forecast going forward. So this is a 200 millibar height anomaly for the winter of 2019-2020 from Patel Payne, going for above average heights, high pressure to be sitting over and to the west of the UK, but also to some degree extending to our east and northeast as well. Below average heights are up to the north, and the Jackson is probably pushed a little bit further northwards as well. That's probably a mainly dry-ish, but also mild type winter, rather an unusual pattern. Temperature anomalies are being forecast to be above average for this winter, quite substantially so, between 1 and 2 degrees above average. Very mild winter being forecast not just the UK, but through most parts of the northern hemisphere, actually. And precipitation anomalies look like that. A little bit of a north-south split, actually. So northern areas looking a little bit wetter than average. To the south, and thus a little bit drier than average. It hints at a mild and rather westerly winter, albeit with an anticyclonic influence. CFS-V2 is very similar. This is a 700 millibar height only from CFS-V2. So this time we've got the above average heights extending from the Azores into many southern parts of Europe. We've got below average heights up around Greenland and Iceland, and that leaves us bringing in these west to southwesterly winds. So a rather Atlantic driven winter being forecast again, a very zonal sort of signal from the CFS-V2. Consequently, it's a very mild winter that's being forecast here with substantially above average temperatures blasting from the Atlantic into much of Europe with those long fetch west to south westerly winds significantly above average temperatures this winter for CFS, and also wetter than average, which of course you would expect given that this is an Atlantic driven and zonal winter. You would expect above average precipitation, and yes, we see that not just for the UK but through most parts of northern and western Europe as well. Moving on to UCM now. So again, this is mean sea level pressure anomalies. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for the winter 2019-2020. It looks a very unsettled, disturbed type winter. We've got above average heights again around the Azores, but this time just a little bit further south than where the CFS, for example, has it. Deep low pressure is up to the north, bringing in a strong westerly jet stream as well. So that is really Atlantic-driven, mild, wet and windy winter being forecast there. Substantially, significantly, very significantly above average temperature anomalies, not just for the UK, but through the vast majority of Eurasia as well. So a really mild winter coming up, if that's right. And also a much wetter than average winter too, above average precipitation. So a stormy, mild, wet and windy winter for the winter of 2019-2020 being forecast by the CFS-V2. Then we go through to Meteo France, and again it's a very, very similar pattern from Meteo France for this winter. We have above average heights, or have mean sea level pressure anomalies I should say, showing high pressure from the Atlantic into many southwestern parts of Europe, so around Spain, Portugal, France. Low pressure, deep low pressure is to the north. The jet seems a little bit further north here, but he's still going for a very Atlantic driven, and you will think very mild winter as well. Temperature anomalies aren't quite as high with Meteo France compared to ECM, but they're still above average. And precipitation-wise, it's a little bit of a north-south split, so northern areas have above average rainfall. To the southwest, it's drier than average. So they're both in line with one another, these two, Meteo France and ECM, just that out of the two, the ECM is the mildest and also the wettest scenario. This is for DWD, this is the German model. Now, this is a little bit different. By the way, all of these models from Meteo France through to DWD and the model I'm going to show you in a moment, they are all coming from Copernicus, and you find a link to Copernicus on the links page at GWV. This one's a little bit different. Does have low pressure with the mean sea level pressure anomaly out to the northwest up there. Also has a little bit of low pressure to our south though, so perhaps just a little bit more cooler potential there, with slightly less of an Atlantic-driven influence, perhaps. Temperature-wise, winter of 2019-2020 from the DWD, it's coming out with no signal, really. So it's not going for those rampant above-average temperatures that the other two models were seeing. And precipitation-wise, again, it's coming out close to average, or it has no signal. So just maybe a little bit more cooler or colder potential from the DWD. Then we go on to the CMCC, which is, of course, the Mediterranean model. This one is very different compared to all of those other Copernicus models. So this one, again, it's a mean sea level pressure anomaly for winter 2019-2020, but this one actually hints at a bit of a Scandinavian high, far less low pressure across the northern latitudes, and low pressure more sort of around Newfoundland, stalled out off the east coast of America. So what this would do, it could allow the jet stream to go on a more southerly track, to be going down here, and it could allow some high pressure around Scandinavia to pull in easterly winds. Potentially that is a rather colder signal for this winter. Although the model is still going for above average temperatures, although again, as I explained, very often these long range models do go for above average temperatures, so I wouldn't necessarily take that too seriously. It's always the pressure and the heights that I like to focus on much more than the temperature and precipitation anomalies. In terms of precipitation, looks a little bit dry on average to the northwest. That's where the high pressure would probably be sitting. Of course, low pressure is around here, perhaps indicating a bit more of a southerly tracking jet stream. That one could be hinting at something a little bit colder for this winter, I think. Then we go through to Jamstech, and this one is actually going for a colder than average winter, not just for the UK, but through most parts of Western Europe too. So we've got UK, Ireland, France, Spain, and Portugal coming out colder than average. Anywhere east of Germany is milder than average. A cold winter also forecast for much of eastern and southeastern America. This is a change on what Jamstech was showing last month. Now, what normally happens with this model is that early on, it will show colder average, and then it will get milder as you get closer to the time frame. What is actually showing last month was a significantly milder than average winter. This month, we've got a little bit closer to winter, and it's gone colder. So that's quite interesting, a little bit unusual for Jamstech. Normally, you would have expected last month's update to be cold, and this month to then be backing away from that to some degree. So a little bit interesting what's happened there from Jamstech, I think. In terms of precipitation anomalies, it looks rather drier than average. If it's colder, it would tend to be drier. So a slightly drier than average winter being forecast there. Notice substantially drier than average up towards Iceland. So it could be a little bit indicative, perhaps, of some northern blocking. We're coming towards the end now. This is the Beijing Climate Center. So this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for winter of 2019-2020 from the Beijing Climate Center. So it's hard to make us out on this view. So this is where Greenland is. It's actually going for some high pressure up towards Greenland. But it's also going for high pressure to be sort of through mid-Atlantic. Again, that's a very recurring pattern with a lot of these long-range models. A strong Azores ridge heading in towards Spain as well. In between, this is where we are just here, and in between we actually have low pressure with the jet stream coming across the Atlantic and into western and northern parts of Europe. So despite that there is a bit of a blocking signal around Greenland because of the strength of the Azores high and the jet stream between those two ridges going across the North Atlantic, it leaves us with quite a mild but also unsettled Atlantic driven type winter. We can see a little bit better where we are in terms of the 200 millibar height anomaly. So of course that's where we are. Again, we've got this ridging down towards Spain and also in the middle of the Atlantic. Seemingly we'll be bringing westerly winds with about no particular northern blocking signal. 200 millibar heights. Temperature anomalies for this winter from the Beijing Climate Center are slightly above average, going for a rather milder than average winter. Precipitation anomalies look like that. A rather unsettled winter, really, above average rainfall, so mild, wet, and I think a little bit on the Atlantic-driven side is the forecast from the Beijing Climate Centre for winter 2019-2020 this month. And then finally, we come to the UK Met Office Gracie 5 seasonal model. So again, mean sea level pressure anomalies this time rather than 500 millibar heights, and in line really what the ECMWF and Meteo France models were showing, in that we've got that deep low pressure covering all of the northern latitudes, no northern blocking whatsoever, high pressure strengthened from the Azores into southern Europe, a strong westerly, southwesterly jet stream blasting across the Atlantic. So this just looked like a very Atlantic-driven, potentially mild, wet and stormy wind signal. Temperature anomalies from the UK Met Office seasonal model are above average, a mild average winter being forecast, but also wetter than average too, with above average rainfall. So what do we make of that? Well, I think we can clearly say we have got a trend, and it's the one we was expecting, actually. We've been expecting this all month, I think, that overall these long-range models would be pointing towards a milder, wetter, zonal, Atlantic-driven, potentially quite stormy type winter, and that is definitely the direction, the trend, if you like, that these long-range models are going into. There is a minority view, though, within these models for something potentially a little bit colder to occur. There's not much support for those colder models, but they are there. They're not. You wouldn't say there's so few of them that they're outliers. There's more there than outliers, but a significant minority, if you like, are somewhat colder potentially. Which is interesting, because if you've been following the winter updates of the Analogues, you'll know that generally the winter update Analogues this year have been pointing towards a milder type winter and an unsettled one, but always with that significant minority of possibilities that are colder. So in some ways, the Analogues and Mars are actually in line with one another at the moment, both trending on the milder, wetter side, but with a minority view that something colder could happen. So that's quite interesting, and it did become apparent to me as I gave these long-range models together, so I thought I'd mention that here at the end of this video. But otherwise, yes, I think the trend is definitely this month, again, towards a milder, wetter, Atlantic-driven, stormy-type winter. And we shall wait and see where it all goes for the third and final Winter 2019-2020 season roundup, which will be with you on the final Saturday of November. I'm not sure what date that will be, but it'll be the last Saturday of November. I mean, of course, we'll get all the long-range models together with all the winter updates and through reanalysis. And with long-range models, we're going to come to our winter forecast, which will be releasing at GWV on the 1st of December. Right, that's it for the second Winter 2019-2020 Season 1 roundup. This video will be placed on the winter updates and forecast page for written summary this evening. Before then, we've got weekend forecast and your week to 10 day video update coming up. So come back for those later on today. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.